Hello, the following presentation includes the NJSLA Access and DLM state assessment results for the spring of 2023. As you are aware, 2019 marked the fifth administration of the Park NJSLA assessment. Linked, please find assessment results from that testing administration. Due to COVID, NJSLA testing was not conducted for 2 years. It was once again administered in the spring of 2022. The following slides will capture student performance on the NJSLA Access and DLM assessments during the 2022-2023 school year. While viewing these assessment results, it is important that you realize that data needs to be interpreted carefully. There are several variables. This is our second administration of the NJSLA since not administering the test during the COVID years. There is no more DFG information and no peer school. NJSLA is a snapshot that provides information about a student at one particular time. We are committed to using multiple measures to assess student progress and attainment. As we begin to unpack this data, we will look closely at the level of all students to see what types of changes need to be made to our curriculum, instructional practices, and our tiered systems of support. There's more relevant data to come. Reference points for this presentation include: how did the NJSLA results for Manchester schools compare to state averages, as well as did the pandemic impact student learning? We've included a plan for moving forward, with which includes instructional capacity, a focus on core instruction, intervention, and extended school year opportunities. We have also included resources for families. This slide shows you the 5 performance levels NJSLA uses to delineate knowledge, skills, and practices that students demonstrate. Level 4 and 5 is meeting and exceeding expectations and is considered college and career ready at the high school level. A CCR determination means at participating colleges and universities, students can enter their freshman year without having to take remedial courses. Now we will go through the NJSLA summary results. This chart displays the ELA spring results for our students in grades 3 through 9. As a district looking across, we see that in third grade, our students had 33% that met a 4, and 2% of our students met a level 5. This is a combined percentage of 35% who met and exceeded expectations. This is representative of all 3 elementary schools. As a district, we would compare this 35% who met and exceeded expectations to the combined state total of 42%. This would be the same way we would interpret the data for the remaining grades up to grade 9. This chart outlines achievement levels by grade level at the district level compared to the state. This chart displays the math spring results of our students in grades 3 through Algebra 1. As a district looking across, we see that in third grade, 33% of our students met level 4 and 11% of our students met level 5. This is a combined percentage of 44% who met or exceeded expectations. This is representative of all 3 elementary schools. As a district, we would compare this 44% who met and exceeded expectations to the combined state total of 46%. This would be the same way we would interpret the data for the remaining grades up to Algebra 1. This chart is a graphic representation of the previous chart and allows us to visually compare district results to state results. This chart displays the spring science NJSLA results for our students in grades 5, 8, and 11. As a district looking across, we see that in 5th grade, 16% of our students met level 3, and 4% of our students met level 4. This is a combined percentage of 20% who met proficient and advanced levels of achievement. Grade 5 is representative of all 3 elementary schools. As a district, we would compare the 20% of students who met proficient and advanced levels of achievement to the combined state total of 27%. This would be the same way we would interpret the data for the remaining grades up to grade 11. This chart is a graphic representation of the previous chart and allows us to visually compare district results to state results. Now we will look through our subgroups and analyze the data. This chart displays the results of the spring ELA administration by race. It is broken down by elementary, middle school, high school, and all grades. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting a specific race. Note, to protect student privacy, data on the number of students for cohorts with fewer than 10 students are excluded from this report. In looking at elementary grades 3 through 5, Level 5 for Asian students has less than 10 students, so only the percentage of students who met Level 5 is provided. That percentage is 19% of Asian students in grades 3 through 5. This chart is a visual representation of the spring ELA results by race. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting a specific race. This chart displays the results of the spring math administration by race. It is broken down by elementary, middle school, high school, and all grades. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting a specific race. This chart is a visual representation of spring math by race. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting a specific race. This chart displays the results of the spring science administration by race. You can read the chart in the same fashions as ELA and math. This chart is a visual representation of spring science by race. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting a specific race. This chart displays the results of the spring ELA administration by gender. You can read this chart in the same fashion as we noted in previous slides. This chart is a visual representation of spring ELA by gender. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting gender. This chart displays the results of the spring mathematics administration by gender. You can read this chart in the same fashion as was noted in previous slides. This chart is a visual representation of spring mathematics by gender. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting gender. This chart displays the results of the spring science administration by gender. You can read this chart in the same fashion as noted in previous slides. This chart is a visual representation of spring science results by gender. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting gender. This slide represents the ELA data by subgroup programming. This chart is a visual representation of ELA results by program. This slide represents the math data by subgroup programming. This chart is a visual representation of math spring data by program. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting programming. This slide represents the science data by subgroup programming. This chart is a visual representation of science spring assessment by program. It allows us to interpret if there are trends impacting programming. Now we will review the access tests for ELS during the 2022-2023 school year testing administration. As of October 10, 2023, the total ELLs in our program is 189. In 2022, our total ELLs in the program is 113. The Access is an English language proficiency assessment for students in kindergarten through grade 12, given every year to students who are English language learners. It monitors the English language development of students. Most students take this test online, but some use a paper format. Students are tested in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Students are assessed on the following skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Scores are provided as proficiency levels 1 through 6. The Access Score Report for our L's provide information on students' progress in the development of English language proficiency. Proficiency level scores are reported from a 1.0 beginner to a 6.0 advanced. For the school year 2022-2023, there were 3 students that exited the program with a 4.5 or higher. These students will be monitored for a year. Those students, 2 of them are current 4th graders, and 1 is a current 6th grader. This slide represents the access for L's data by grade level K through 12. It also provides performance level data for grade bands. This slide represents the percentage of students' proficiency levels on the access. The bar is broken down by K to 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. The goal is for students to meet proficiency levels of expanding, bridging, and reaching. This slide provides data for access results by race. This slide provides data of access results by program. This slide provides data of access results by gender. The next set of data we will look at are the Dynamic Learning Maps Assessment, or DLM. The Dynamic Learning Maps Assessment is a test that measures the academic achievement of students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. This test measures what a student knows and can do at his or her academic grade level, regardless of cognitive ability. The assessment is individualized for each student based on their IEP and assesses them across a number of essential elements based on grade level and subject area to determine their mastery of the skills. Students are assessed in ELA and math for grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. Students in grades 5, 8, and 11 are also assessed in science. We have 25 students in the district that took part in the DLM testing in 2023. The performance levels on the DLM are emerging, approaching target, at target, and advanced. This slide represents performance levels for ELA, math, and science on all grade levels. This chart represents performance levels for each grade level for English language arts. This chart represents performance levels at each grade level for mathematics. This chart represents performance levels at each grade level for science. Our notable achievements for the testing administration and what we have put in place to support our district and our students. We have an instructional coach to support the mathematics program in K through 5. We have instructional coaches to support the literacy program in K through 5. We have a technology instructional coach at the middle school and high school. We are providing training for teachers to support the integration of the workshop model for ELA in the middle school and high school. We have a focus on vocabulary instruction across content areas. We are working on supporting our tiered systems of support. Social emotional learning and positive behavior supports are put in place. We have a focus on data to drive instruction. We continue to use district-wide assessment committee to disaggregate the data, and our targeted professional development helps support our teachers. Intervention strategies that are put in place include: we are focusing on intervention practices outlined in our tiered system of support. We are continuing to provide school-level teams the opportunities to analyze data through assessment committees, department, and our grade-level meetings. We are assisting our teachers in the refinement of data conferences to analyze data to inform instruction and provide personalized learning opportunities. We review outcomes by various subgroups to understand the performance of our students with different learning needs. We look at outcomes in different categories, such as analyzing fiction versus nonfiction, subclaims of the standards. We are identifying achievement gaps and making informed curriculum decisions. Our next step with data analysis, plan, and reflection include evaluating instructional tools, strategies, methods, and interventions implemented and adjusting them if needed. We are planning for enrichment and support for all students. We are identifying areas of professional development. We continue to drill down data. We continue to monitor the implementation of Linkit and its use. We have vertical and horizontal articulation across grades and across schools, and we support college and career readiness at the high school. Below are some resources for our Manchester families. We thank you for your support. Feel free to contact Building Administration and the Curriculum Department with any questions.